Fact: in the cemetery of Glenade in Leitrim County, Ireland, you can find the grave of a local woman called Grace McLaughlin. According to the gravestone, when she went to wash clothes in the Loch Glenade one morning in 1772, she was attacked and killed by a huge creature that came up out of the lake. But what kind of animal was blamed for her death? It was described as kind of like a half otter, half dog, but also kind of a crocodile, and is known to the locals as the Dobhar-chú. And as far as otters go, this is a pretty big creature, maybe 10 or 15 feet long. If you want to go Dobhar-chú hunting, you'd better be careful. Supposedly they live in pairs, and if you kill one, it'll give off a high-pitched, eerie scream. That's the signal for its mate to swim up out of the depths and rip you to pieces. But these are just old folk tales, right? Well, maybe not. An artist named Sean Corcoran claims to have spotted one in 2000 on Omey Island in Connemara, Ireland. He reported seeing a huge, dark creature with orange flippers, which swam the whole length of the lake in just a few seconds. Many people still believe that the Dobhar-chú are real, capable of remaining deep underwater for long periods and traveling great distances in no time at all. And sightings of them aren't limited to Ireland. Some people believe they've seen similar-looking creatures all the way across the Atlantic in remote corners of the Great Lakes. It's even speculated they might be some sort of juvenile form of the Loch Ness Monster. Dobhar-chús are a prime example of cryptids, an animal for which there's no definite evidence of its existence. For many, they're considered to be imaginary species. Then again, they could just be undiscovered species. Some are well known, like the Sasquatch, the Loch Ness Monster, or the Jersey Devil. But reports of other quasi-maybe could-be creatures exist all over the world. We know that many fantastic beasts like dragons are just straight-up fantasy tales that have been passed down through the generations. But those tales were based on real-world discoveries of dinosaur fossils by ancient peoples. Fiction influenced by facts. And when people in different locations at different times report these sightings, and the details seem to match up, one has to ask the question, could something unknown really be out there? And that's the question that gets cryptozoologists out of bed in the morning, and some of them will go to any length to try and find evidence. The hunt for cryptids often requires expeditions to some of the least accessible parts of the planet, in search of undocumented creatures that would turn scientific understanding upside down. So pack for the truly bizarre, because today we're headed into the weird world of international cryptids. The Gobi Desert occupies 500,000 square miles of Mongolia in northern China. Fun fact, the Gobi is not your traditional desert. A lot of it isn't sandy at all, it's just bare rock. You can actually drive across most of it with a 4x4 vehicle. But there is a mysterious danger whispered about by the locals, and it's called the Mongolian deathworm. To Mongolians, it's known as Olgoi-Khorkhoi, which roughly translates to large intestine worm, and it's been part of their culture for centuries. The worm is said to be so poisonous that you don't even need to be bitten by it for it to kill you. Just touching it means instant death. And according to some accounts, you don't even need to touch it to be in big trouble. Legend says it can spit its venom at you from a huge distance, venom which allegedly can melt metal, so human flesh wouldn't stand much of a chance. Some versions even give this thing the power to electrocute you from yards away. Fun fact, this is the creature that was the inspiration for the giant sandworms in the popular Dune series of books and movies, as well as the graboids in the cult 90s comedy horror classic Tremors. Though the original Olgoi-Khorkhoi isn't quite on the same scale. It's said to only be about 2 feet long, and some serious money has been spent trying to capture one. An expedition of Czechoslovakian cryptozoologists in the 1990s used a homemade device similar to the thumper in Dune to try and attract one of these creatures. The result? Nothing happened. Other expeditions have used explosives and scoured the desert with light aircraft and high-definition cameras. They also didn't find anything. One possible explanation for the Mongolian deathworm is that it's, in reality, just the Eryx miliaris, aka the dwarf sandboa. In 1983, Soviet researchers showed a specimen of this 4-foot-long, fat-headed desert snake to locals who claimed to have seen the Olgoi-Khorkhoi, to which they replied, "Yep, that's the guy." If this is the case, then the creature's deadly powers have been ever so slightly exaggerated. Sandboas aren't even venomous. They're basically only dangerous if you happen to be a small lizard. The Likuala swamp area of the Congo Basin in West Equatorial Africa is not the easiest place to travel to. Remote, waterlogged, and covered with dense jungle, it's probably the perfect habitat for a rare, undiscovered species to exist in seclusion. Species like the Mokele-Mbembe, which has been part of local folklore for generations. There have been many eyewitness reports of this dinosaur-like giant throughout the years. Fun fact, French missionaries in the late 1700s described finding 3-foot wide clawed footprints in the local wilderness. But like many cryptids, no clear photograph has ever been taken of it. And according to the local fishermen, that's no surprise. They say anyone foolish enough to get their boat close enough to the creature to capture its image would be instantly killed by the creature's long, single horn. But by their tellings, the bodies are always just left floating in the lake. So it seems the Mokele-Mbembe is a vegetarian, or maybe not. According to other accounts, it just prefers eating elephants. We're definitely getting into Jurassic Park territory here. Could it really be that this one remote corner of the Earth is the only spot in which a dinosaur managed to survive? Some certainly think so. One group who's organized a number of expeditions to search for the Mokele-Mbembe are the Young Earth creationists. Young Earth creationists believe the universe was created by the Abrahamic God in the span of 1 week just 6,000 years ago. The movement touts sightings of the dinosaur-like creature as proof that their beliefs are valid. The way they figure it, early humans, Adam and Eve and their kids, lived alongside dinosaurs right up to the time of the Great Flood in the Noah's Ark story, who I guess wasn't too keen on putting 2 dinosaurs on the Ark. Other people have a more mundane theory. A big, vegetarian creature that's shy, dangerous, and only has 1 horn? Could it possibly be sightings of the now endangered black rhinoceros? Only time will tell. If you'd rather go cryptid hunting in the Amazon rainforest, you can try and find a Mapinguari. But if you do find one, you'll know it immediately. It's 8 feet tall, kind of an ape, kind of just a thing, with 1 large eye and feet that point backwards. According to legend, you'll probably catch its terrible, putrid smell before you see it. It supposedly kills with its arms, which are said to be strong enough to tear down a tree, and have massive claws. And just before you die, you might catch a glimpse of its second mouth, located right in the center of its abdomen. I'm not sure which mouth I'd rather go in, there's not really a good option here. Fun fact, there are several different versions of the Mapinguari, which represent the complexity of Brazilian culture. In certain traditions, the Mapinguari is almost an allegory, representing the dark secrets of the forest, and serving as a reminder that humans cannot dominate nature. Some Amazonian tribes believe that these creatures are shamans who have gone so deep into transformational rituals that they've become part human, part monster. So keep that in mind if you've ever fantasized about taking ayahuasca and tripping in the jungle. Scientists have pointed out, however, that accounts of the Mapinguari have a lot in common with an animal that definitely did exist, the giant Megatherium sloth. These things were literal giants. We're not talking bear-sized, we're talking like elephant-sized. Fossils show they were still alive about 12,000 years ago, and in evolutionary terms, that might as well be yesterday. In fact, some estimates have the first humans arriving in Brazil as early as 22,000 years ago. That's about 10 centuries of overlap. Like other giant mammals in the Americas, they went extinct when the humans and the warmer climates arrived, not an uncommon occurrence. But is it possible that a small population of these giant sloths survived to this day? It could explain the description of feet that look like they're kind of backwards and the less than wonderful smell. The answer, of course, is we just don't know. Some scientists have searched for the Mapinguari, but they've all come back empty-handed. It may well be that all cryptid sightings are something similar, just a case of mistaken identity. A person sees something, a moving shape at a distance in low light, and the brain fills in the blanks. The story gets told, and every time it's retold, it gets a little wilder and a little wilder. Then again, not necessarily. Look at this thing. Straight out of a book about mermaids and sea monsters, right? Nope, this is the megamouth shark, which wasn't discovered until 1976, and no one would have believed that this was a real creature until it turned up in a fisherman's net. And scientists' best guess is that so far, about 80% of the species living on Earth have been discovered, leaving 1/5 still undiscovered. Most of the unknown ones are probably bacteria or microorganisms, but the bottom line is, cryptids could be anywhere, just waiting for their upgrade to newly discovered species.